friends. Happy happy July 3rd. Happy Thursday afternoon. Sorry I wasn't around yesterday to vlog, but I'm doing this while Mr. Jerry is running into town to pick up some paint supplies for his antique stuff that he is redoing. So, yeah, so I thought I would hop on and just check in. All I've been doing today is knitting. I've been knitting on that shawl. I think 6 rows from, 6 rows from starting the next section of, I think it's like a flower section of the 3 other colors that are in it. The 3 colors that I am using, well, first of all, I don't have any of it with me, so I'll try to see if I still have photos of it. They're all from Up North Yarns, and it is called Tequila Sunrise, the main color. And the little minis are the light green is called Pistachio, the pink light, because they're all light colors, the light pink is Ballerina Pink, and then the peachy color is called Cantaloupe. So, and I'm knitting it on a US 5 knitting needles. I just had to, the 32 inch is not enough. I think I know it's well over 2. Oh, well, let's see. I have to think here now. Nope, I think I'm just at 197. And I told my friend, Miss Jenny, that by the time that we get the shawl done, there's like 471 stitches before you bind it off. So that's a lot. But I know that her and I both are enjoying this. It is just relaxing knitting. You just have to remember when you have to do your increases, and it's not that difficult. And yeah, I can put something on the TV on YouTube and I can watch it and just knit right along. So, but last night I did work on more of the mosaic blanket, and I think I've got like 6 rows, crochet rows to do before I start another section of the blanket. So, and all the colors of that I am using are Super Saver Red Heart. I got the extras down here. And so, but yeah, and that's really all I've been doing. Yesterday, oh, I got an itch on my leg, sorry. Yesterday, woke up with a slight allergy headache, and then it didn't get better. So that's why there was no vlogging. It just sucks sometimes. So, but it finally went away late last night, and knock on wood. So far so good. But so yesterday I didn't hardly do anything. We did go, let me back up a minute. We used to have a kitty cat. The ones that have been with me from the get-go, Miss Callie, and she was always with me, and she was always in my videos and my morning coffee and all that stuff. And we lost her last year to kidney disease, renal kidney disease. And that was heartbreaking. That was heartbreaking. We both said no more. Just no more. She was the save the best for last. So, you know, after you have a cat for as long as we had her, over 10 years. And the cat before that, Miss Chanel, who was we adopted her from a humane society. She's been gone a few years before that. She lived 22 years. So once you have a pet, whether it's a cat, dog, whatever, and they've been in your lives like that, they just become part of it. And then that routine of, just like the loss of a human, you know, you have all those reminders. And because I take pictures of everything, and she's what was always in there, my memories on Facebook will show pictures of her. So neither one of us have been ready. And I don't know, Jerry a few months ago started looking up cats for some reason, and he'd bring it out to me, cats, and I would say, what are you doing? I'm not ready for a cat. And he goes, I know, but he goes, but look at these kitties. And you know, he would do that every once in a while. And then I don't know, the last 2 or 3 days, he's been looking at cats. And when I say cats, not kittens, he's looking at adult cats or senior cats. And he's been looking at them. And oh, we stayed up, not last night, the night before, until 1 in the morning. He brought his computer out and he's shown me all these cats. Well, there was 3 cats. They were senior cats. They're all in foster homes because most humane societies like to put the seniors with a foster home because it's better on them. And he's always wanted an orange tabby cat, you know, and we've never, well, when we were first married, we had one. It was a kitten, and when it got to be about 6 months old or something, got into our basement where he had some antifreeze setting out, and we no longer had that cat. So, and I can probably count on one hand how many cats we've had, because it seems like when we get a cat, they live forever with us, and that's a good thing. But my first cat before I met Jerry was a long-haired black cat with green eyes, and her name was Pretty Lady because she was a beautiful cat. And she didn't live, she probably was 5 years old, but she developed a health issue that she, you know, so, and we went down to our, at that time, our small town had a pet store. It's no longer, we've not had a pet store in, oh shoot, 30 plus years. And they had cats, and they had goldfish and lizards and all that, and hamsters and all that stuff. Well, there was this white kitten, and we both went down there and we adopted that kitten. They said it was for sure a female. And we said, okay, so we named her Snow White. The kids were probably maybe 6 and 3, something like that. And Snow White was such a beautiful kitten. But then Snow White, all of a sudden one day, things just dropped. And Snow White was not a female. And Snow White just didn't seem fitting on he now. And so we just started calling him Old Man. He was an indoor-outdoor cat at that time, and we lived in the country. And he would go outside, and we were on this hill that you can't see cars. If you come out the driveway, you can't see cars coming. We would have been one that said driveway, you know, up ahead. And you could watch him when he got older. He would go right out to that road because there was a field across the road. And he'd go over there to go hunting. And he would go to the edge of the road and he would sit there. And you saw him look both ways. And then he quickly ran across the road. And I remember there was one time we heard this really loud squawking noise. And we looked out our door on our front porch. And in the field there was pheasants, and he had chased these, was chasing these pheasants, and chased them right up a tree. And then they came back at him, and then he was up in the tree. So, but we had him for a long, long time, and we used to be foster caregivers to greyhound dogs. We had 2 that we adopted ourselves, and then we fostered them. And one time, because we were a good fit, because we had kids, young kids, and we had cats. And our greyhounds didn't bother the cat because they were afraid of the cat. So, but needless to say, we had a foster dog, a senior one, and when we came home, we saw white fur and everything, and needless to say, they took the foster. They asked about taking our dogs, and we said no, because I'm sure it wasn't our dog. And so needless to say, the next day, old man passed away. And we did feel so bad about that, because that was a terrible way for him to go, because he was well over 10 years old at that time. Then we had, people seemed to drop cats off at our house in the country. We found one. We had a barn, and we found one in there, and there was a mama cat who took all her babies but one. So we took that one. We named that one Pistol Pete. It was a little tiger. And then Pistol Pete got to be like 6 years old, and one day climbed into the engine of Jerry's car. And he had called me on his lunch hour to let me know that he found the cat in the engine, but the cat wasn't dead. But the cat just didn't act right. So the cat was in the back of the car with the window down and stuff. And when he brought it home, we ended up having to call the vet, and the cat had a broken tail. He had to have surgery, and so he had this stump right there. And then one day, because he was an outdoor cat, and then one day he was just gone. He was gone. So we don't know what happened to him. And so we still had, we had an American Eskimo, miniature American Eskimo dog, Sparky. We had him for almost 18 years before we had to put him down because he was blind, deaf. There was other issues that could not be resolved. And you know, when you have a pet, you have to make those difficult decisions. And you have to make that decision based on their welfare. So, and the greyhounds were the same way. So, because dogs only live so long and cats only live so long. So, we, someone dropped this little calico off, and I told Jerry, because he was done with pets, and when he came home from work, that was back in the day when you had the phone on the wall with a long 20-foot cord. You didn't have cell phones or anything, and you had an answering machine. So he came home from work, and I had showed him the kitten that I found in the yard. And I said, and I know we won't put her in the house because you don't want any more pets, and because she was just this teeny tiny calico. And he says, oh, she's too pretty to have outside. So along came Coco. And when we moved into this house, when she was 18 years old, she developed a lump on her face. And it was a fast-growing cancer. And we did treatments for her. They did 7 treatments, and it wasn't helping. And it was just... So again... And... I was done because she was my kitty. I was done with cats. I couldn't do that again. And I don't even know why we went looking at cats. But we still had our daughter here. It was her senior year. And Jerry and I and her went up to the Humane Society to look at cats. And we went to look at a senior orange male cat for Jerry because he said he wanted a cat. And that male cat didn't want anything to do with us. Did not. Ignored us. And there was Chanel that we ended up adopting that Bethany had saw. And they brought Chanel in it, you know, and Chanel just... She was all over you. She was rubbing up and down. She went to Bethany all the time, and she became Bethany's cat. Well, then Bethany went on to college, and, you know, and then she moved in with a guy, and, you know, the cat stayed with us. And so Chanel became our cat. And they have 2 cats of their own now that they've had for 15 and 17 years, too. So... But Chanel was a loner cat, and she was a beautiful cat, and she always loved taking Jerry's spot. He'd go out, and no matter where he was, he could get up. She could be laying beside him. He'd get up to go to the bathroom or get a drink or something. He'd come back, and she'd be curled right up. And then he'd come back, and he'd go, and you'd see her one eye open up. And so he just petted her and let her sit there. So when Callie came along, his mom found her, and her mom, Callie's mom, and siblings had been hit in the road in front of their house, and Callie was still alive. She wasn't in the road, but she was off to the side. So when his mom called us, she said, I'll pay for her to get checked and everything, because she was flea-ridden and she had goopy eyes, and his mom was afraid that a coon would get her, you know. And we had went out there one night, and she walked right up to Jerry, that kitten, and just climbed up his blue jeans all the way up to his shirt. We had a towel so he could wrap her in that. She had already claimed him. So we set up the appointment, and his mom and I went into the vet. They gave her a shot, because I said, you know, we have another cat, and I don't want to bring anything home myself, and because that's when we still had Chanel. And they gave her a shot for the fleas that killed them all the next day. They gave her antibiotics and all that stuff. She didn't even weigh a pound. She just fit in the palm of your hand. And as we're getting ready to leave, Jerry's mom looks at me and says in front of the vet, well, I can't take her back home. I said, but it's your cat. You found her. And she said, nope, we can't have a kitten. And I looked at the vet, and the vet looked at me, and I says, well, we can't have another cat. And I said, what about, I said, do you have anybody here that wants a kitten? Or, and the animal shelter was full. They weren't taking anything. Just like, that was when we did have cell phones. And I called Jerry. It was towards the end of when he was getting out of work. And I said, you need to come to the vet's office, because your mom's not taking the kitten home, and they need to know what we're doing. And so he stopped, and of course we took the kitten, and we put her in the kitchen, and we you know, boxed her in a little bit and everything. But Chanel did not want anything to do with her. Chanel hid. Chanel just every time saw her would hiss and growl. And the older that Callie got, the more they would kind of lay within a few feet, but that was it. And basically we had 2 female cats that really needed to be single female cats. Once Chanelli died, Callie came out of her shell, and she was a completely different cat. We never heard her voice until then. And she was probably 7 years at that time, and she started being a talker, and then she would purr, and she would jump up on you, and I mean, it was a totally different cat. So, and she followed me, and she sat with me, but she definitely was her daddy's little girl. So, when we had to make that tough decision, because we were taking her in for shots to help and everything, but she had lost weight. She started putting weight on, and I think that's when they discovered that the kidneys were not functioning right. She was up to 17 pounds, and she was down to 11 pounds when we made that decision. And it's not like she wasn't eating, she was still eating. But it was just like the vet said, you know, it's just her quality of life. And she was getting, so she was crying all the time. So back to now. So he's been looking at cats. So guess what? We went, no, we did not get a cat. So we went down to our local shelter. They don't have hardly any cats. They said they'll have probably more next week. But he wanted an adult cat, he told me. And there was 2 adult cats in there, but one was a tiger and one was a black and white. He doesn't care for the looks of the tuxedo cats. He doesn't care for all black either. I think he wants a long-haired cat again. And I said, I don't want to do a long-haired cat again because they get matted and it's awful. You know, because you got to brush them even when you brush them. So we went down there, and I haven't held a cat since Callie, so, and neither is he. And they had these kittens down there, and there was 2 of them. There was a tortoise kitty, which was a female, and a tortoise is just almost all black with some brown patches through it. And then there was a orange tabby. And so the gal put them out, and Jerry was standing right there, and he didn't even offer to hold them. She just put them on the ground, and they're running around because they're kittens. They're like 6 weeks old. And I walked over to that orange tabby, and I picked up that orange tabby, and as soon as I held him, I mean, he settled, and I'm petting him, and he's just laying there like contented as can be. So I walked over to Jerry, and I just handed the cat to him. And the cat did the same thing. Now when I picked up the tortoise one, she kind of settled, but then she was that kitten. As soon as she settled, it was like, you know, 5 seconds later, nope, I gotta move, I gotta move. They had another cat there, a kitten that was probably 2 months old, that had been adopted, and it was a cream tiger, long-haired. She was gorgeous. And when we left, of course they were asking what he was looking for, and he goes, well, you know, I was thinking about helping out, you know, getting an older cat. Or she goes, yeah, but kittens need help too, you know. And I said, well, I think we'll just go home and we'll have to discuss it a little more. So that's what, you know, we got to the car, and we both sat down, and as we were talking, I said to him, I said, you know, if that first kitten that was adopted hadn't been adopted, that kitten might have came home. And he goes, I agree. So, but there are 2 senior cats that we looked at in Grand Rapids, and the problem is that they are in a foster home, and it's not really a problem, but they're making sure you have to fill out an application, and the application is so personal, and then they want you to answer questions that you don't know how to answer quite yet because you haven't met the cat. And then once you fill that out, they have an adoption, what they call adoption agency, that looks over the form, and then they let you know if you've been approved. And once you've been approved, then they work out with the foster person when you can meet with them, and then you get to meet the cat, and then you, hopefully the cat will like you and you still like the cat. Well, yesterday my head wasn't the greatest, even after going to see that kitten and everything. And there was, they named this orange cat, and I'll try to insert a picture of this cat, called Fan. And I said, who names a cat Fan, F-A-N? She is 8 years old, and a beautiful cat, beautiful cat. The other one is 10 years old, and that one's called Mimi. But then I get home and we start talking about it, and of course then the agency responded back to us. We didn't fill out the form. We asked how we could meet because it was an hour one way. I told where we were coming from, and we'd like to check both cats out at the same time. She said you had to fill out the form, and she goes, when she responded the second time, and she said, and there is nobody else in line. You would be the first one in line to meet the foster one. And that way they would try to coordinate it so we can meet them both at the same time. One's at the shelter and one's with the foster mom. And then we could sit there and look at the kitties and then decide, you know, are either one of these okay that we want, and do they like us, or do we have to keep looking? I don't know what happened to just going and getting a kitty. We both, just last night, I said to him, I said, I don't even know if this is what you want. I said, you tell me you want an orange cat, but then the other kitten wasn't really an orange one. It's more of a cream color, but you really liked it. And I says, I think what the issue is you don't care what kind of cat it is, as long as it's not a kitten, unless it's that other one, that you know, other kitten that basically when you see it, you're going to go, ooh, I like that one. And I said, so I says, I think that what I would rather do is not rush it. I would not do the application, and I would wait, and we'll go back down to our animal shelter next week and see if they have more cats, and we will look. I said, unless you really liked either one of those orange cats. And he goes, well, no, not really. He said, it's just that, you know, they are nice looking cats. So, will we get a cat? Probably sometime. I don't know. You know, he's looking at it from the standpoint of, you know, an 8 and 10-year-old cat, how long would we really have them? And you don't know how healthy they really are, even though they say they're up to date on everything. And it's not the cost, because a senior cat, most places are, if they're 10 years and older, this place only charges $25. And if the other one would be $50. A kitten is $160. So, and you can get kittens off from people locally too, you know, but you're taking the chance. So, because with all these others, like our shelter place, it's $75 to adopt a cat. But once you get the cat up to date on shots, well, actually, they do the shots. Once you get the kitten spayed or neutered, and you bring that paperwork back, they refund you the adoption fee. So you're basically saying that I'll pay the $75 to make sure they're up to date on all their shots, because it depends on how young the kittens are, because those 6-week-old kittens were just still too young to have shots. And once you had all that updated stuff, and then they've been neutered because they have to be a certain age to do that too, that you can get your money back. And we've adopted from other places like that. And the thing is with older cats, normally they're already spayed or neutered, and they're already up to date on shots. But so that was my yesterday, and by the time we got home in my head, and I just could not say hi to you guys, so please forgive me. But Miss Pat, I don't know if you still watch me or not, but I hope that your fur babies are doing good, because I know you had one that was going through exactly, well, had diabetes and stuff. So if you have an animal, you know what it's like when you find out that you got to give them medicines that cost more, the foods cost more, and you know, that has never been an issue for us. We find a way to come up with it, and a lot of times the vet offices will have things to help you out too. So for right now, I'm just going to let you go, and if I don't see you on the 4th, have a very happy 4th of July for the ones that celebrate it. And I'm just going to play it by ear this weekend, because it again is going to be unbearably hot. It is going to be in the mid 90s with heat indexes high again. So, but I'll do my best, even if it is to come into my little sewing room here and just sit and chit chat. But yeah. So the thing about looking at cats is I always want a cat, and it's brought that back, that I want a cat. Where I was to the point where I had accepted that we weren't going to have any more. So silly things nowadays, isn't it? But that's how it is. Thanks for listening to my long story and all of our cats. The other thing is that on my logo it shows that I'm doing Weight Watchers. I'm still doing Weight Watchers. I'm still doing Lose a app too. And the thing is that I'm not going to be telling you how I'm losing or I'm gaining or whatever, you know, because I don't feel qualified to be telling you how you should be losing your weight. So that's why it's not a big part of my channel as it used to be, where I used to show you my foods and all this and that, because it's my body and it's your body, and you have to do what is good for you, because maybe I can have sugary stuff and maybe you can't, or maybe you can have, you know, whatever there is, and I can't, and what works for you doesn't work for me, and vice versa. Or maybe you have to take weight loss meds because your health is at risk. And so please don't ever think that I'm not still doing, because I am doing, and I'm doing what I can do. And I'm trying, I'm still tracking, and the only reason I'm still on Weight Watchers is because they gave me a free month, and we'll see what happens. If I can get a good deal to where I'm not paying, you know, almost 30 bucks a month, I will still stick with my Weight Watchers. But when it starts to be upping almost, you know, $30 a month, and everything I get from Weight Watchers now is they want me to sign up for their weight loss meds. And I know they talked about the settlement of their chapter 11 thing and everything, and within what, a few weeks or a month there are going to be some changes and stuff. So I'm definitely going to hold on to until I can hear what they have to say, because in the past they've done me good. They really have, as far as losing weight. It's just that the older you get, sometimes you get tired, especially if you've been on a weight loss journey. You know, I'm 67 and I've been on a journey for most of those, well, I was on Weight Watchers when I had my kids, but not the whole time once I got the weight off. But this last time, I've probably been on it a good six years paying, and I have not lost the weight. So, it just, you get tired. And you feel like, anyways, I feel like sometimes that I'm losing out. But this year, I'm not feeling that. I'm actually, maybe it's because I'm living my life and incorporating things still. And planning for it, and not always having it, and making better choices. By sitting there saying, you know, like yesterday, my head hurt, and I just wanted him just to run in and pick up something from McDonald's, my old go-to thing. But I didn't. So that was huge for me. And I'm eating smaller portions. And I don't know, I'm just giving myself that chance, I think. And I'm not putting the pressure on myself. And I'm doing the best I can do. So, it's been a long one. I'm sorry, my friend. But till we can meet again, thanks for sitting down with me and listening and chit-chatting. And I hope that your day has been a good one, or night or morning, whenever you're seeing this. And till we can chat again.